In this video, we're going to be discussing about mensuration. Now, what is mensuration? Mensuration is the aspect of mathematics that studies geometric shapes and some of their parameters such as area, their perimeter, their volume, the total surface area, curved surface areas, and the likes. So now in mensuration, it is divided into two broad aspects, and that is the plane shapes and the solid shapes. The plane shapes can also be said to be a two-dimensional shape, meaning it just exists in two dimensions, in the x and the y axis. While for the solid shapes, we have three-dimensional shapes, that is the x, y, z axis. You can say x and y axis should be something like the length and the breadth. While for the solid shapes, the three-dimensional shapes, it has the length, the breadth, and height. So in that case, we are talking about the x, y, z axis. Now, under plane shapes, there are some shapes that are important to discuss. And here we have the square, the rectangle, triangle, parallelogram, trapezium, circle, rhombus, among others. There are also other types of plane shapes, but these are irregular shapes where you combine each, maybe two or three of these shapes together in a single shape. So that's what we talk about, irregular plane shapes. For the solid shapes, the solid shape is also divided into two broad aspects, and we have the prism and the pyramid. Now for the prism, let's say for instance we have the square. The top and bottom of that prism is going to be square. If we have for the rectangle, both top and bottom is going to be rectangle. But for the pyramid, a pyramid is always tagged to have a pointed end, or you call it vertex, such as that of a cone. Okay, so for pyramid, they always have a pointed end. So now for prism, there are types of prism. We have the square base prism called the cube. We have the rectangular base prism called the cuboid. We have the circular base prism called the cylinder. Now there are other types of based pyramid prisms, which are, we can have a rectangular and a triangular base. We can have a parallelogram base. Any plane shape based prism can exist. And for the pyramid, we have the circular base pyramid, which is known as the cone, which I said earlier on. We also have rectangular base, the square base, any plane shape you can mention as its base as a prism or a pyramid. Now, what are the problems we are expecting to encounter when we talk about mensuration? In this, we are trying to know the area of a particular shape, the perimeter of a particular shape. That's for the plane shapes. Now for the solid shape, what are we expected to encounter? We need to know that we are going to come across stuff like the total surface area of a solid shape, the curved surface area of a solid shape, even the volume of a solid shape. So these are the things you should expect to come across whenever we're discussing about mensuration. Note that there are other types of pyramid, but these are not completely tagged as pyramid because they don't have the vertex in the case of a frustum. So we're still going to discuss it in our coming videos. Now for this class, we'll be talking about the square and the rectangle. Now a square is a plane shape that has all four sides to be equal. A square has only sides. It does not have breadth, it does not have height. Since each of these sides are equal, so we just say a square has four equal sides. And since, as I said earlier on, for plane shapes, we are required to look for perimeter and area of a plane shape. So the perimeter of a square is given as 4 sides. That is the distance around that object. Perimeter can be said to be the distance around a particular object. So if you have a circle, the distance around that circle can be said to be its perimeter. If you have a rectangle, the distance around that rectangle is said to be its perimeter. So in the case of a square, all 4 sides, adding them together is going to give us the perimeter of that square. So for the area of that square, area is the space that particular shape occupies. So for a square, it's just all we are required to do is multiply one side by the other side to get the area of a square. And for a rectangle has length and breadth. Since its sides can be distinguished, a rectangle has a length at one side and the other side, and also a breadth, how wide that shape is. So the perimeter of a rectangle can be said to be the two lengths, which are of equal sides, of equal length, and the two breadths. So the perimeter of a rectangle is given as 2 into brackets length plus breadth. And the area for a rectangle, the space that this rectangle is going to occupy, is given as the length times the breadth. So for instance, if we have a rectangle to have a length of 5 centimeters and we have a breadth of 20 centimeters, what is going to be the perimeter of this rectangle? Remember, we said the perimeter is what? The distance around that object. So we have a 5 centimeter going upward, then we have a 20 centimeter, then we have a 5 centimeter, then we have a 20 centimeter. So what is going to be the sum of this? That is a 5 plus 20 plus 5 plus 20. That's going to give us 50 centimeter. While the area of this rectangle is going to be what? The 5 centimeter multiplied by the 20 centimeter, and that's going to give us 100 centimeter squared. So I'm going to drop this question. I will expect you guys to solve it and leave your answers in the comment section. What will be the area of a square which has sides 4 centimeters?